Well, as divestment activists know, this is escalation season, so let the escalation begin. Welcome to the official launch of the National Association of Scholars' new study, Inside Divestment, the Illiberal Movement to Turn a Generation Against Fossil Fuels. We are pleased today to have as our keynote speaker Mr. George Gilder. I will introduce him in a few minutes. Our program also includes remarks by Herb London, chairman of the NAS board, and by Rochelle Peterson, the author of the report. And then we will open the floor to questions. Let me first welcome you, the guests, to this event. I'd especially like to welcome two attendees. I know one for sure is here. I'm not sure the other, but both registered. That is Jamie Henn and Lindsay Myman. Jamie is co-founder of the divestment activist group 350.org, where he now serves as the Director of Communications and Strategy. He's a 2007 graduate of Middlebury College, where he majored in history, and has contributed to two books, Bill McKibben's Fight Global Warming Now, where he wrote as part of the Step It Up team, and also the book The Next Eco Warriors, 20 Young Women and Men who are saving the planet. Lindsay Myman also works at 350.org as communications director. She's a 2014 graduate of Lehigh University. Now, Jamie and Lindsay pretty much invited themselves to this event, but I am very happy that they are here, or at least I know that Lindsay's here. Jamie, if you're here, you're welcome too. The National Association of Scholars stands for robust, open debate on important issues. That commitment is illustrated in the final section of our report. You have it in front of you, titled Forum, which opens with an original essay by Bill McKibben titled Fossil Fuel Divestment is Moral, Financially Wise, and Strategic. The forum also includes essays by the British science writer Matt Ridley, the very well-known dissenters from global warming orthodoxy, the physicist Willie Soon and Lord Christopher Monckton, and the less well-known but eloquent statistician, Matt Briggs, who is also here today. Now, as far as I can tell, this is the first time that the proponents of such contrasting views have been brought together in one place. Why is that? I would be in danger of giving a lecture rather than opening remarks if I tried to give a full answer to that question, but it's important that I at least try to give a little context. Higher education in the United States and in some other nations at the moment is in a self-generated predicament, as a significant number of students and faculty members have turned against one of its foundational principles. The principle at stake is intellectual freedom, and it is under assault from several angles. Some attack intellectual freedom on the grounds that it fails to protect students from racial insults. Some attack it on the grounds that it provides cover for those who supposedly abet rape culture on campus. In February 2014, a Harvard undergraduate named Sandra Korn took to the pages of the Harvard Crimson memorably to reject the doctrine of academic freedom, as she called it, in favor of what she called academic justice. Korn is among those we've now learned to call social justice warriors. Eco-warriors, such as Jamie, are to be understood as a regiment in that larger army. This new campus ethos has attracted plenty of attention, including a widely reported article in The Atlantic in September by Greg Lukianoff and Jonathan Haidt, The Coddling of the American Mind, which attempted to get at the psychological roots of the whole movement towards trigger warnings, safe spaces, limited free speech zones, speech codes, expanded definitions of harassment, microaggressions, and the like. Rising concern about the narrowing of permissible speech on campus seems to get brand new justifications just about every week. This week, we have the video of a young woman at Yale screaming profanities at the master of Silliman College for his having offered a mild defense of free expression in the medium of Halloween costumes. And we have the headline in today's New York Times about the resignations of the president of the University of Missouri and the chancellor of the flagship campus, essentially bullied from office for not sufficiently acceding to the demands of activists for more vigorous university support for their racial justice protests. The fossil fuel divestment campaign, of course, is its own thing, but it shares with the developments I have mentioned an aversion to letting proponents of contrary views have their say. This is most apparent on the topic of global warming. In September, a group of 20 faculty members led by George Mason University professor Jagadish Shukla wrote to President Obama asking him to direct the Justice Department to use the RICO statute, the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, to investigate, quote, corporations and other organizations that have knowingly deceived the American people about the risks of climate change as a means to forestall America's response to climate change. We're not mentioned in that letter, but I have the feeling that were Professor Shukla to have his way, I would soon be behind bars. Professor Shukla and his colleagues invoked the name of Rhode Island Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, who has similarly been calling for the use of RICO statute to go after climate dissenters. Senator Whitehouse has now convinced New York Attorney General Eric Schneiderman to subpoena ExxonMobil in search for some damning evidence of criminal conspiracy. What starts on college campuses seldom stays on campus, which is, of course, the whole premise of the fossil fuel divestment campaign. I cite Professor Shukla and Senator Whitehouse because they provide diamond-clear examples of something that is much broader. Advocates of fighting man-made global warming have for a long time held to an orthodoxy that the science is settled. Often this is coupled with a demonstrably false statistic that 97% of scientists or climate scientists or somebody agrees that the science is settled. And that in turn provides the pretext for declaring the campus off limits to anyone who disagrees. And this is where the National Association of Scholars comes into the picture. We are a body of academics. We don't take a collective position on global warming, its causes, its magnitude, its possible cures, or whether it is paused, non-existent, or raging. Our members, of course, do take positions, many different positions on these matters. The matter on which the National Association of Scholars as an organization does take an emphatic stand is on the need for civil debate on important topics in which there is a genuine range of intellectually cogent positions. That's why we are here. And that is the deep motivation of our reports. Our report issued in March, Sustainability, Higher Education's New Fundamentalism, there's a poster for it over there, and our brand new study, Inside Divestment, the Illiberal Movement to Turn a Generation Against Fossil Fuels. Let me anticipate one question. Did we do this research at the behest of the fossil fuel industry? The answer is no. As far as I can tell, the fossil fuel industry has paid us no heed. But we are open to a challenge on this because we did receive a grant from a Santa Barbara-based foundation, the Arthur N. Roop Foundation. Nonagenarian Arthur Roop made his initial fortune as a pioneer producer of rhythm and blues records. He later invested some of his earnings in oil and natural gas businesses in Ohio. Now, so for those who want to make him out as the face of big oil in the United States, all I can say is good luck. ExxonMobil, he is not. His passionate cause is support for public debate on campus, not the fortunes of the energy business. But since I'm on the subject of where funding comes from, let me note that according to 350.org's 2014 annual report, its $8.3 million budget, that's about 8 times the size of ours, was funded in part by contributions from the Rockefeller Brothers Foundation and the Tomcat Charitable Trust, which is the charitable arm of coal billionaire Tom Steyer, who excavated much of his wealth from the controversial Maules Creek coal mine in Australia. The source of funding tells one very little about the merit of the ideas towards which that funding is put. But if we head down that road, the amount of air and water pollution per word of advocacy in the divestment movement is many times the NAS quotient.